What's up, everybody? It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Tyler Perry's comedy drama Sisters, Season 9, Episode 10, Backshot. Now, I don't know what that means, but honey, it sounds nasty. The only thing you get your back shot out, I'm just saying. Y'all can put it down in the comment section what y'all think it's referring to, but that's what I got from it. But before we get started, if you are new here or if you're returning and have not subscribed to my channel as of yet, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell and select all. It'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you hit that like button, write a comment and join the conversation, and share the video because sharing is caring and you want to help this sister's channel grow. Thank you very much. So this episode starts off with Maurice and Sabrina in her office at the bank, and they're looking through that dating app that Maurice invited her to be a part of. And he took the phone from her, remember, and he's looking through it trying to find somebody for her. And she's like, let me see. And he's like, look, let me just take care of it. Stop. He asked her, do you like doctors? She said, yeah. He said, okay. Do you have time for a lunch and munch today? She's like, a lunch and munch? Yeah, like a break. He's like, okay. He shows her the picture of the person. We don't get to see it, but we later find out the person that Sabrina is meeting for her date is none other than Rock, Danny's cousin who just got out of jail. so, so Sabrina ends up meeting with him at her apartment. She's a little nervous. She needs the drink. He's real smooth and everything. Brother is smoother than smooth. He looked good when he dressed up. He really do. And he was all up in her face and he said, don't be nervous. I don't bite unless you want me to. And he said, may I? And he kissed her on her lips. And then he said he takes her to be a little bit more reserved, considering that message that you left. She said, what did I write? He said that you want me to hit it like a ship hit a big iceberg. And she spilled the wine everywhere. And then they went into the bedroom and he gave her just what she was asking for. Gave her some back shots, I guess, because she was all good and smiling and happy going back into work at lunchtime. So over at Danny's apartment, we see her talking to Tony and Rock, and she's pissed that he's there and how you just gonna let somebody in my house. He said he's your cousin. I was like, damn, anybody could have said they was her cousin. You just let him in, you fool. And so they just sitting there playing video games and ignoring Danny. She's telling them they need to get the place straightened up and cleaned up, and he's like, it's not that bad. And she started like throwing stuff up and moving stuff, and all of a sudden she sees the check. And she grabs it and holds it to her chest and said, okay, y'all, clean up. I got to go back to work. And she grabbed her pocketbook, went out in the hallway, and called Sabrina. Meanwhile, Tony's telling Rock, you need to help me clean up or something like that after we finish this game. I said, this don't make no kind of sense. So Danny's telling Sabrina, she's standing right outside the apartment door. If it's supposed to be a secret, why people stand right by the door? Go down the hall, downstairs, and outside before you start talking. Anyway, she's telling her, I got the check. I need to come there, help me cash it. I need to know what to do with it. And Sabrina's like, okay, but I have a lunch date right now. So what I'll do is, when I get back, I'll let you know. And she said, I'll give you other options. So I was like, look at here, Danny being responsible and stuff with that $75,000. I'm proud of her. What I'm hoping is not going to happen is Tony sit there and think she's supposed to spend her $75,000 on him. He should have some money saved up. He should be getting a severance package, but you don't get a severance package when you quit, now do you? He's a dummy. Anywho, we have Fatima coming into Andy's office talking about she coming to check on her in between meetings with the basketball players. And Andy doesn't seem to show any signs of jealousy, anything. However, she does remind Fatima that they're not her priority and she should stay focused, especially with all those gifts she has around. And Fatima keeps saying, yeah, I'm really going to get rid of them. I'm going to get rid of them real soon. You've been saying that all morning. They still there. You should have been gotten rid of them. And then she asked Andy, so what did you say you needed me for? You said you needed something. Oh, I was, and she said, oh yeah, I need the nurse's statements. She put out her hand and Fatima sits down and said, oh, I didn't get them yet. I'm sorry. She told you at least an hour ago to get those statements. You went and did some of everything else but what she asked you for. And she stressed to her. She said, I told you the importance of needing all of the evidence to present so that Vince will take on this case. And she's like, those things are important. So of course, Andy's going to have an attitude. I would have an attitude. So Andy tells her she has a messenger coming from the hospital where Dr. Cruz used to work. Can you handle that? Can you get that? And Fatima looks at her. But I ain't mad at Andy for that. I'm sorry. I'm not. Because Fatima is slipping big time. Not once, twice, at least 3 times. She's slipping. She's not getting stuff done that she says she's going to get done. And she said, is there anything else? And Andy got up and said, no, like cut her off. And Fatima looked at her. But I'm sorry. This is important to her. And you're doing something that's really a side job that you're really not supposed to be doing. And you started doing it without permission. So let's get it straight. So now over at the salon, we have Karen coming in there and seeing chaos, people going all over the place. Now, I thought it was a good sign at first because I said it looks busy. But then I realized it's a hair salon. People ain't supposed to be walking and running all around. And she's like, what is going on? And Pam's like, oh, Karen, it's not that bad. And she updates on everything that's happening, what they out of stock and who got in a fight with this one, what is this? And Karen is like, this salon is the one thing that I did right. I'm failing at everything. And Pam is like, but Karen, that's not true. You're a highly successful and accomplished woman. And Karen got upset and she was like, I can't do this. I can't. She's like, but Karen. I said, why they got her whining like that? That was getting on my nerves. I don't remember Pam talking that way. Maybe I'm wrong. Y'all put it down in the comment section, but that's what I don't remember. And Karen walked out. Now, here we are back at the law firm once again, and here's Andy. She knocks on the conference room door and says, oh, here you are. I was looking for you. Fatima goes, hey, what's going on? Never looks up at Andy at all. She's still looking at the papers and everything. That is your boss who just walked in, who's a partner in the law firm. What makes you think you have the right to not acknowledge her and show her respect and look up when she enters the space? But anyway, she said, oh, well, do you have the nurse's statement? And you see Fatima going, shh, like she didn't even get it. She said, I promise you I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. This is the third time that Andy's asking about it. So if anybody's sitting there saying Andy's jealous of her and Andy's this and that, no. Fatima is slipping big time and she need to be checked. Andy is now a partner. She's not regular Andy now. You know, you have to show that next level of respect. Even if she was just your homegirl, you still, in the office, supposed to show her that respect that she's not giving her to her job. And Andy tells her, you're still a paralegal and it's still a job for you to do. And Fatima's like, I know, I'm going to get to it now. I'm like, what is wrong with her? And then she's like, I know this is important to you. And she said, it's important for all Black women, Fatima. And then at that point, Hayden comes in and gives Fatima work to file. And then he looks at Andy and back at Fatima saying, oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt something? He said, I'll leave you two to continue on. And then he heads to the door saying, I'm going to get some flowers out of your office, Fatima. I got a date later. I said, oh boy. He said, but I'm so glad you picked a better partner. This me and you, we locked in. And he's passing Andy at that moment, smirking. And Fatima's just looking down like, oh boy. And Andy said, Fatima, do you work for me or do you work for Hayden? So I don't know what went down after that because it went to commercial. But when it came back, you see them meet up in the hallway. And she said, here's the nurse's statements. And she said, thank you, girl. She said, you're welcome. They go in opposite directions. And then Andy realized that 3 of the statements are missing. So Fatima goes back over to her to see, and she's like, I don't know how that happened. I thought I had all of them. And Andy said, I needed the statements to be backdated up to 6 months until Karen was admitted if they were on duty. And she's saying she's only seeing up to 2 months, and she knows for a fact that 5 of them were on duty that night. So Fatima's saying, you know, she don't know how that happened. And she's like, Fatima, you've been letting me down today. I know you're good at your job, but today you've been off your game. And I have to agree with her. Andy is 100% correct about that. And as my girl Von Sheila said in the chat the other day, she's like, right is right and wrong is wrong. And Fatima, you wrong right now, girl. She is wrong. And she says, you know, she has a lot on her plate. And Andy's understanding about that, but tells her she needs to focus. She needs Fatima to have her back. Andy seemed calm and even-tempered when she said it. And Fatima said, what? I always have your back. And Andy agreed. Yes, you do. But sadly, you know, she had to tell her, I know we're friends, but don't forget, I am your boss. But it seems Fatima is not seeing that. She's been dropping the ball all day. when it comes to the task not started or completed for her boss. She's been dropping the ball. And she has no right to make the last statement that she did to Andy about, well, Andy, if you're questioning my dedication, I'm like, it's about you doing your job that you were hired to do. This ain't about dedication. This is about doing your job. You getting a check for it. Fatima, point blank. So now let's quickly go over to the juice bar where Zach comes in and sees Rich. I don't know when they became cool and stuff. Why they decide to meet at the juice bar, because that's where he's going to meet Chaz, is beside me. But anyway, he's like, what's up, man? I'm sorry about what happened, with the baby, blah, blah, blah. And Zach is looking all, pathetic and everything. And he doesn't tell Rich he's there to meet somebody. But while he's talking to Rich, Chaz comes in. He said, oh my goodness. Rich goes over to Chaz. He's saying, what's up, what's up? Chaz said, no, this is a nice spot you got here. He offers Chaz a drink. Then he asked, yo, do you know I'm waiting to see some guy named Zach? And he said, oh, wow, I know Zach knew people like this. He said, Zach right over there. So Zach doesn't put out his hand to shake him. He don't fist bump him or nothing. They sit down and they talking. Chaz is telling him about his idea. Zach is cutting him off with everything he says. He's not he not even giving him a chance. He not looking interested. He's just looking like dead at him, like he want to smack him or something. And so he's like, you got it all figured out, huh? And he said, no, not really, man. And then he said, Fatima said, Fatima, what? He said, dude, I'm sensing hostility. He said, no, go ahead. What'd you say? He said, Fatima said you all about your money, like me. So she thought it was good to meet up and stuff. So Zach is like, you got it all figured out. He said, not really, man. He said, but I did do my work, my homework, so I do know. He said, then riddle me this, Batman. I said, uh-oh, here comes Zach. And he says, do you know how detrimental it is to your health to be sending another man's girl expensive gifts? So Chaz is like, what's your problem? He said, you my problem. And then told him he's not interested in any investment opportunities with him. And so Chaz says, oh, so you big mad that some other dude is showing your girl some appreciation. And so Zach is like, I don't need you to send my girl any appreciation purses, period. And Chaz is like, oh, so you just mad about the purse. And Zach's like, what you talking about? He said, I sent her way more gifts than that. I said, oh, snap. But see, then you didn't send the gifts to the house. You sent it to the office. So why did you send the purse to the house? Because you're being messy, young boy. And then he had the nerve to say, she ain't tell you. See, now he trying to start problems in her relationship. And that ain't cool. And so Zach is like, let me tell you something. Fatima don't need any of your purses or your expensive gifts. I give her everything she need. And he's laughing. And he said, or what? And he's like, or what? See, he a young boy. He a young boy and don't have no common sense. All he had to do is say, my bad, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. But no, he feeling himself and choosing to be disrespectful. So Chaz said something like, what you going to do about it? And Zach stood up and said, yo, I'll do this. And he pushed him. Zach pushed him. And that's when Rich came out talking about, wait, hold up. What's going on? And Zach is like, I'm going to have to teach this young man a lesson. And Chaz is like, he just trying to feel like a man because he obviously doesn't at home. And so Rich is like, nah, man. We don't do that here. We don't play that. He said, you have to get your ass up out of my shop. And he's like, that's fine with me. And so Chaz walks out talking about, and that green juice tastes like garbage. And Rich said, your free throws are garbage. I said, oh boy. And then Zach got mad and threw the green juice at the door at Chaz. But Chaz had just stepped out onto the sidewalk, so it didn't hit him. So Zach was like, it's my fault. Look, I got to go. And he's like, yo, you good? He said, look, I'm fine. I got to go. I need a drink. And he left out. And Rich ran out behind him, yelling to a supposedly employee to lock up. So now we have Karen getting home from her doctor's appointment in the salon. And Miss Lisa's on the couch holding Faith, rocking her. And she lets her know that her salon didn't seem the same. Loud music was playing, stuff was going on everywhere, and Miss Lisa's like, do you need me to go in and talk to her? She said, no. She said, it was a mess, Mama. She said, she's a liar. She said, I don't like her. She lies a lot. She's got lying eyes. And she's like, oh, Mama, please. She's like, no, she lies all the time. I'm telling you. She said, Mama, I don't want to talk about it right now. So she said, okay, fine, And then she asked her, how did her doctor's appointment go? And she said it went well. And she told her that the doctor suggested maybe a change of scenery would be good for her. And she's like, well, what do you mean? A vacation, a walk in the park, what? She said, I think he meant more like the environment that I live in. And Miss Lisa's like, isn't that a bit drastic? She's like, I don't know. But then she's looking at her mother and she said, Mama, I think I'm ready to hold my bet. And then she said, to hold faith. And then it switched to the scene with Andy at her desk. So we never found out what happened with that little exchange between her and Fatima in the hallway, which I don't understand. When Fatima saying maybe we need to have a conversation, I was like, say what now? Who you talking to? Especially when Andy looked at her like, say what now? you know? So anyway, Andy's in her office. She gets a call from somebody named Nurse Sanders. And she tells her that, there's a class action suit against Dr. Cruz in Alabama. And she said, Did you know about it? She said, No. She said, But I'm not surprised. And she said he has several women of color die under his care. And she said, when the case was brought up against him, he changed his name and moved to Georgia to practice. She said he's known as Dr. Ivan Cruz in Alabama. I said, Oh, snippety snap. And Andy was like, This guy needs to be stopped. He is horrible. And the nurse is saying he seems to be protected by the hospital board and he's the head of labor and delivery, and that it's probably going to be hard to take him down. But we know our girl Andy, she's determined to not allow that to happen. She is not letting him get away with it this time. No sirree, Bob. And so the episode ends with Sabrina, Maurice, and Paige. They're in her office at the bank, and she's telling them about her little lunch and munch fling that she had, and how many times she orgasmed, how many times they did it, yada yada, Peter Potter, and Maurice is joking around and. And Paige is adding her 2 cents and talking about her little affair that she had with a gynecologist and. So anyway, then Danny came. And Danny came in, so they all had to leave. And Maurice told Danny, make sure you tell me everything she said. Danny's like, okay. And so then Sabrina helps Danny with putting her money in a savings account and in an IRA. She tells her how it goes, how it works out, how it'll help her build her money, and she's happy. So then Sabrina shares with Danny about her lunch lay that she has, and she shows her the picture of the penis that he gave her to take with her because she said, I wish I could take you with me. So he took a picture of his penis so that she'll always have it with her. And Danny was impressed by the size of it, and she said, oh my goodness, hoeing in the afternoon. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you. I said between her and Maurice, I don't know who's worse, that they're proud of her being a hoe. But I tell you one thing, I can't wait to see the expressions on Danny and Sabrina's face when they find out that he's not a doctor and that it's Danny's cousin. So that's the way it ended. Y'all let me know down in the comment section what y'all thought about this episode. I thought it was funny. And I will see you all in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It's your girl, Barbie J, saying peace.